Hey, this is Gabe from Waldemar, and you're listening to The Barn.
Hi, and welcome to The Barn. This is the Mox live in the Barn studio in Southeast Missouri, joined online with a special guest, Mr. Gabe Larson from Waldemar. How are you, man?
Great, dude. Yeah, great. How are you?
Did I pronounce it right?
Yeah, you got it. Waldemar. Yeah, I mean, we commonly get Waldemar, which always cracks me up because, like, that technically is, like, the correct pronunciation of a Germanic name to hit a V sound with W, but Americans, English, you never do a V sound with a W, so it always cracks me up that American English speakers intuitively go for Waldemar when they shouldn't, even though that's technically correct. It's strange, but yeah, Waldemar is how we pronounce it. Yeah.
So it's interesting that you say that because I was looking on YouTube for you guys, and a metal band came up with the V before the W, I think.
Oh, interesting. Okay. Yeah.
So, and it seemed like a German band, I guess, maybe. I'm not sure, but yeah, that's interesting. And I know it's derived from sort of your family and a family name.
Yeah, it was my paternal grandpa. That was his name. He went by Wally, but his actual full name was Waldemar. So he was a second generation American via Norway. Yeah. I think his parents were fresh off the boat from Norway.
Very cool. And, we want to shout out Josh Zanger from All Eyes Media. He sent us.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Josh is the absolute man.
He's the man for sure. 100%. Yeah.
He put you guys on our radar and sent us an advanced copy of your new album, Ruthless, out May 5th. And I told him even earlier in the email, we cannot stop spinning it. Absolutely in love with it. Love the sound of it. And I really want to get into that record. And, you know, because the story behind it sounds really interesting and really cool. So tell us a little bit about Ruthless.
The creation of the record, it was a 5-year process. So there's a lot of life that happened over those 4 years, global pandemic notwithstanding. But yeah, 5 years ago, I started writing what would be a lot of the songs that show up on Ruthless, and wrote for about a year and thought that I had the record ready to hit the studio and to make it, and had some plans lined up with the band to go and record at a studio with a really good buddy of mine, producer in Eau Claire. And last minute, he got a job offer to go on the road with one of my favorite bands, actually the War on Drugs, which is kind of hilarious that because of one of my favorite bands, we weren't able to record with my buddy, you know what I mean? But
side note, one of my favorite bands as well.
Oh, dude, they're just absolute killer, modern legends, man.
Yeah.
They're the best. Yeah. But anyway, so all of a sudden I had all these songs ready to go. I thought that they were ready to go. They were absolutely not, but all of a sudden we kind of were homeless with this record. And I had worked on and off in studios around Eau Claire for a couple of years, and my brother Nick, who plays drums in the band, also had worked in studios, including the studio that we were planning on working at, Brian. And I don't know, I think it was like that one of those perfect moments where we knew enough to be willing to try something, but not enough that we were dumb enough to actually try. We caught this wild hair and we're like, what if we built our own recording studio? We've got this money that we'd saved up to pay this guy. And it'd been kind of a pipe dream of mine to build a studio out of this old horse barn that I have at my house. My house was built in the 1890s. Got a lot of character, but a lot of creaks and stuff. But
a lot of character and a lot of high electricity bills, I bet.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. high character is what you say when is what you say when actually you have a house that's kind of crappy, but you're trying to like make it seem nicer than it actually is. But
yeah, a lot of real estate agents say that. It has a lot of character.
High character, yeah, exactly.
Has a lot of history.
Exactly, yeah. But yeah, I had this the small old horse barn at the back of my property that had been kind of a pipe dream turned into a studio for a while. And yeah, my brother and I were like, what if we built a studio? And I was like, yeah, I think we could build it in like 3 months and then make the record in about 2 months and away we go. And again, like we knew just enough to like think that we could do this, but not enough to actually have any sort of realistic idea of what we were getting ourselves into, which I'm actually super grateful for, because I think if we would have actually known what we were getting ourselves into, we would not have ever started. It took us, I thought it would take us about 3 months to build the studio, and it took us just under 2 years to build the studio. And for the entirety of that 2 years, I thought that we would finish the studio in a month, like a month from wherever we were at. So it was just like again, it was just like this constant roller coaster of emotion of every single month being like, oh, okay, I think if we get this done, we'll do the drywall and pack insulation, blah, blah, blah. Like if we can do all that, we can get this thing done by this time next month. And then like 2 weeks rolls around and it's like progress is not even close to where it should be. And then feel the disappointment of that. And then kind of pick ourselves up and set some new goals and like, okay, actually next month is when we'll actually finally finish. We just got to do this, this, and this. And it was literally like, I never picked up on the trend for like the entire 2 years. I literally every single month thought that we were going to finish in a month perpetually for about 24 months. But yeah, anyway, eventually somehow the studio got done, which was just a crazy experience in and of itself. Because my brother Nick and I, we did this horse barn. I'm sitting in the studio actually right now. It was barely hanging on. Like we literally did everything: electrical, drywall. We put a new roof on the place, and of all the things that we had to do, all the flooring, carpet, whatever, everything, we'd never done any of that ever in our entire life except for roofing. I used to roof houses in college and stuff. So we had to like learn everything right before we started doing it and stuff. So it was a pretty insane learning experience. But yeah, after finishing the studio, I was not learning my lesson. I was like, oh, okay, cool. Now the studio's built. In 2 months, we'll have the record done. And it was 2 years of working on the record until it was finally done. So yeah, all in all, 2 years of recording and mixing and 2 years of building the studio and a year of writing before that. And there's other writing that happened kind of along the way in there as well, but yeah, that's kind of the flyover of how it all happened. But yeah, I mean, the process of all of that really made a huge impact on the songs. I think the songs that I thought were ready when we were wanting to go into the studio in like year one of the whole thing, they needed to germinate a lot longer. They needed to mature. They needed to grow up. I thought they were ready to go, but they changed significantly from what I originally had and what we would have gone into the studio with to what you're hearing now. But
do you feel that happens a lot? I don't know if it's ego getting in the way or just a rush to get it out because you're so excited about it, but do you feel like sometimes the longer a song sits, the more it can kind of come to life and shape it to how you want it to be?
Man, it so depends, honestly, which is kind of a frustrating answer, I feel like. But there's certain records that I've heard, and from like what I understand, like the story behind it, that were really like a product of patience. You know what I mean? Like records that just like really took their time in coming into form, and where the artists and producers and stuff behind it just like really went deep and really saturated themselves in the music, and just like really were very content to take a slow path to completion and stuff. And there's something about the sound of those records that I feel like you can sense when you're listening to a record like that. But at the same time, though, there's also something really special about songs that are really immediate, that because the shadow side to patiently working on something for a long time is there's all sorts of stuff that can creep in, all sorts of self-doubt and overthinking, and you can really lose the plot like the further down the rabbit hole you get and lose touch with the original spark that you had with a song and stuff. So man, I don't know. It really depends. I mean, I don't really know how to make records any other way than just like, I think it's just personality wise. I get really obsessed with subtleties and minutia and like really deep. I've never been somebody who's got like 30 songs just like sitting in the hopper. I have like kind of a smaller batch that I'm like working on really deeply, you know, but there was one or two songs on this record that were really fast. The Summer Rain, the third track on the record, that like amongst a record that most of the songs like really took a long time in coming forth, that one I like wrote the lyrics, found the melody, chord progression, and recorded the whole thing all from start to finish in like 10 days.
Wow.
Like, yeah. And I don't know how to explain it other than it just kind of fell out. And for some reason everything felt really obvious on that one for some reason. Like there's just really, I don't know how to describe it other than that. It just felt every kind of decision in that song just felt like it was the only possible path or something. Like, oh yeah, there has to be a chorus right here. And then there has to be another verse, and oh, it's time for a bridge, you know? And even like the bridge on the song that you hear on the record, I didn't even have the lyrics for that bridge when I put myself in front of a microphone to try to sketch out a bridge, and I didn't have any lyrics, and I like ad-libbed the lyrics and sang them into a mic, and that's what you hear. It just like came out, which I'm not like an improv-y type of artist by nature, and for some reason that happened on that song. I've never experienced the song creation quite like that one before. Amongst the record that for the most part, to me, when I hear Ruthless, the record, it definitely feels like a record that's the product of saturation and patience and stuff. But I don't know, there are some songs and moments that were really immediate, and somehow they work together too. Like they still feel like they belong together. So I don't know. I probably have rambled beyond the
no, you're fine.
original point of your question, but as I'm prone to do. But
I will say this: we have something sort of in common, and it brings up a question that I have for you. So our recording studio is actually in my backyard as well.
Oh, killer. Love it.
When we bought the house, it was a workshop, like a handyman workshop, a woodworking shop, and that's not me. That's not Sweet. What I do. So, it was sort of a labor of love into creating and building what I wanted to become. And I'll send you a picture of it once we get off here.
Yeah, I'd love to see it. Yeah, man.
But it makes me think about, having access to a studio that, that's so convenient, that's literally in your backyard.
Yeah.
It's sort of a blessing and a curse, I've found, because having a full range of access, it's like limitless. I can change this and I can make this change, and I can listen back to something, and I don't like that, so let's try, so it's like overkill 100%. Sometimes. Do you find that as well?
Oh my goodness. Yeah. Like there's so many blessings and shadow sides to having your own space like that. And for sure, like if we would have recorded this record with somebody else, like it would have gotten done a lot faster because it had to get done faster. I mean, if we booked 2 weeks with Brian, it's like, okay, well, somehow we will get this record done in 2 weeks. But being in our own place, none of those time constraints were on us. And I don't know, there's something about like I've heard people talk about like whatever container size you have, you will eventually fill that. Like people buy a house and they're like, oh, we want to upgrade in size, but they're moving from a place with like 3 bedrooms into 5 bedrooms, and somehow you bring 3 bedrooms worth of stuff, but you still manage to fill the container that you occupy. Yeah. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so when this is a weird metaphor, but yeah, like when the container, in this case being the studio, time is in theory limitless, you can end up just filling that container limitlessly with just tweaking and stuff like that. But I also found a challenge with having my own studio literally right out my backyard too, is the studio would kind of wag its finger at me a little bit, like times when I would not be working on the record, and I quote unquote should be, you know what I mean? That like I'm sitting in my house doing nothing, like literally nothing, and I've got this record that I simultaneously want to finish with every part of my being, and also simultaneously it sounds like the worst thing in the world to get my butt off the couch and walk 10 steps out my back door to go work in the studio. You know what I mean? Like that was even kind of a weird thing that I kind of had to learn how to deal with, of learning to like set up boundaries in my life of, just because you can walk out your back door and work all the time doesn't mean you should, you know what I mean? And like setting up like proper time boundaries to put your work down, you know what I mean? Lay the hand off the plow, you know? So I'm sure you know all about that too.
Yeah. And it's like the struggle of finding that balance, right? Where it's like one too many tweaks and then you feel like you messed up the whole thing, you know? Yeah.
That is a thing. And honestly, that happened on about, I think about half of the record. We almost fully recorded, and I basically deleted everything and we started over on about half the songs. Limbo, I think that happened 3 times on Limbo. I think I started over on that one too many times. That one put me through the ringer. I'm really stoked about where it ended up, but yeah, like Limbo, Ruthless, we totally deleted after. There's on my hard drive on the studio computer is like half of an alt version of this record. Yeah, like and I think some of that, I don't know, I think some of that is we were still just like kind of getting used to our own studio as the instrument that it is, you know? And I think some of the first songs that we kind of like finished and then ended up deleting and starting over, I think some of that was like, I think we thought we were recording, but in some ways we were just kind of like getting to know the studio and making a lot of mistakes in a way. And eventually it became kind of unsalvageable in the fastest way. Like by the time it was just like, man, I know that this is where this is at is not the spirit of this song that I know exists somewhere. And you can beat your head against the wall trying to salvage what you've got. And I don't know, for some reason, it just like felt a little bit more freeing for me on a bunch of these songs to just like, you know what, we own our own studio. We're not paying anybody to be here. Let's just delete this and start over. Like that, for some reason that feels faster. And I think it was actually, but I mean, you never know.
I'm sure you're familiar with the record producer, Rick Rubin with Def Jam. And
I just started his book, The Creative Mind, I think is what it's called.
Yeah. So that's what I was going to reference actually. Cause a lot of what you're saying reminds me of that is where, he's kind of notorious for like, I think some people have even complained, maybe they're expecting something else of him in the studio, but where he will just kind of like sit and just listen. And, but also like talking, especially early on in the book, he's kind of talking about how art, you can't force art, right? You just kind of like open the art portal and just hope things come in and kind of go with the flow. Where like the more you seem to force it, the more it kind of pushes back on you. And I know that's kind of heady, kind of stuff, but I really like that book. I really think a lot of Rick Rubin. And when he was talking about that, it really resonated with me and sort of some of the things that we do here.
Yeah. No, I feel like I've experienced that. Like, I think there's a thing about it is heady. There's a lot of magic and mystery to songs and songwriting and how songs come to be. But man, something I feel like I've learned is that a song is going to be what it is. And as the songwriter, it's kind of my job in a way to like identify what that song is and then showcase that. You know what I mean? And the times when I've struggled the most with writing a song is when I've got an idea for a song and I am not, maybe some of it is I'm not really excited about what that song is fully, and I want it to be something that it's not. And so I push it like to try to make it more specific. Like I'm working on a song that is kind of like a folkier, acoustic, more sensitive song or something. And maybe I'm kind of like, man, didn't I just write that? Just like a month ago, didn't I just write this song? Like, okay, maybe I'll try to make this one, I don't know, a little bit like less depressing or a little bit livelier or a little bit rockier or something like that, and start trying with that. And man, like that I have learned over and over again is such a square peg in a round hole, that like letting the songs actually just be what they're trying to be and being okay with that actually allows those songs to be the best version that they possibly can be. And I don't know, it is heady because when you think about songs like that, they start to feel less and less like yours, you know, that like they're almost like I don't know, like a person that you're a steward over or something like that, versus being like an inventor or something. I don't really ever feel like that when I'm writing songs. I feel like I'm more like trying to listen to what the song is and then record it. It doesn't make sense. Again, it can get pretty mystical. I don't know, I love listening to other songwriters talk about songwriting because eventually the more they talk about it, the more confused that they get by it, even though they do it all the time. They've written a lot of songs and they still are like not exactly sure how it happens. You know, it's like okay, cool. I'm not the only person who feels that way.
Do you sometimes feel like you're working for the song, where it's really not something that you're creating, but that is coming from somewhere? And I don't know how deep you want to go, but like it is coming from somewhere and it's your job or your responsibility to kind of mold it and shape it and craft it?
Yeah. I mean, it feels like such a paradox. Like on the one hand, I'm the maker of the song, and on the other hand, like the song feels like it's making me, or is like, that's a good question. I kind of feel like there's some sort of weird paradox where it's like a both and versus an either or, where on the one hand, I do have the liberty to make creative decisions for the songs, and I do that all the time, but somehow in the creative decisions that I'm making for the song, when I think I'm making my best decisions, they don't feel like I'm acting as an author. I feel like I'm more that my best decision making in songwriting is happening when I really feel like I understand what this song is, which is that I didn't invent. It just like is, and now I'm trying to like play that on my guitar. You know what I mean?
Right.
Or sing that with my voice. I think there's kind of a both and thing with it, not an either or.
Yeah, it's not exactly black and white.
It's frustrating. Sometimes I wish that I could just make my songs be exactly what I want them to be, and that they didn't push back on me in the way that they do. But at the same time, though, like, I don't know, I feel there's something that feels really cool about feeling, this could sound really egotistical, but feeling really grateful for the songs that you have. Like, I feel really grateful for Ruthless, that whole record, because I think of the paradoxical nature of songs, that I feel really grateful for them in kind of a way that I don't feel like I own them, you know, that like I feel really grateful that they came to me or something like that. You know what I mean? We're deep in it now, man.
I know. I got one more and then I'll pull us out of this. But like you hear, everything that you're saying is kind of reminding me of Rick's book, but it also reminded me, or, you know, made me think of, you hear UFC fighters or boxers talk about like being in a flow state sometime, where their instincts just kind of take over and they're, you know, maybe in the zone or whatever you want to call it. Does songwriting sometimes feel that way as well?
Yeah. I think the times that I feel like I've experienced that the most is not at kind of the original genesis moment of a song, but like, because a lot of songs start with just like a really small idea that like, and all of a sudden something sparks and you're like, oh, I think we've got something going here. You know what I mean? Like you catch wind of something, you know what I mean? But I think the flow state thing for me, where I've encountered that the most, is when there's kind of like two really distinct turning points, I feel like, that I've noticed in pretty much all my songs. There's that initial genesis moment when I'm like, okay, I think I've got a hold of some idea. And then there's a secondary moment that comes who knows how much longer after that, where I've kind of like started to develop the idea of that song more, that I've started writing lyrics, I've come up with a melody, I've probably started recording stuff by this point. And that all of a sudden, like the recording just kind of like blossoms. And what I'm hearing back on the speakers, I had a moment like this with basically every song on the record, where I was out in the studio at like 3 or 4 in the morning, just looping the entire song, laying on the floor of my control room, just looping the song, and just like kind of like just saturating and kind of bathing in the sound of what I was hearing back, where and then I'll like kind of get up and make little mixing changes and stuff. But like where all of a sudden I feel like I'm actually finally hearing for the first time much more tangibly that initial spark that I had, who knows how long ago, when I first had the original song idea. But yeah, I think basically every song there was one really late night of 2, 3, 4, 5 in the morning of just listening back to wherever I had the recording at, like literally like 100 times, and making little tweaks, making little edits and stuff, and just responding, like not really thinking, just everything just all of a sudden becomes really intuitive. Like, oh, the bass has to be louder here, and the guitar should get muted right there, and oh, there needs to be a vocal thing right here, let me try that. And I try the thing and listen back to that, and it's like, yep, that was just exactly what it needed, so yeah, I don't really feel that the flow state thing, I don't typically get that early in a song. It's usually about halfway through its creation.
You mentioned your studio being in Eau Claire, Wisconsin.
Yeah.
Any other notable residents in Eau Claire, Wisconsin, that are geniuses? And
let me look at Wikipedia. There's got to be somebody around here. Yeah, I mean, dude, Eau Claire. I mean, besides Justin, obviously, dude, like Eau Claire is this like really special place. It's pretty rich with some pretty incredible talent around here. I don't know, it's not a secret anymore, obviously, and I think it's kind of been like that for a while. But yeah, I feel pretty grateful to be in a city that is so simultaneously a small town and yet is like pretty big with a lot of talent around here. It's kind of a rare combo.
I have some friends that live in Menominee, Wisconsin.
Oh, no kidding.
Yeah.
That's awesome. I was just driving through there today.
John and Dustin, they own and operate Zymergy Brewing company.
Dude, that place is killer. Yeah, they're great.
Yeah, you been there? Yeah, okay, cool. So we went up and visited last fall and just fell in love with the area. It's a beautiful area. It's like the most northern Wisconsin, other than like Green Bay, that we've been. Right. So, and we had a really great time up there. But I told him, I said, yeah, I'll come into town, but you have to promise that I'll run into Justin in the flea, at a market, or take me by his house or something like that. Because I just feel like, like maybe he put it on the map or something. And the fact that he, I think, stays there and has a studio there too, where, he could easily go to LA or New York or something. I think it speaks a lot about his character. Yeah,
totally. I mean, he was raised here and stuff. And I think there's something about home, and yeah, no, I think it's awesome that he's stayed here and has done what he's done here. I think the whole community has really benefited so much from his presence. And I mean, I think for me personally, even just like, there's something about like seeing, he's not my neighbor as in like he lives next door or anything like that, but like the person who grew up in the same way that I did, in a small town, and knows like all the places that I go to, know? Oh, and he creates like just fantastic art. It's a helpful knock against imposter syndrome BS stuff that artists put themselves under, like, oh, I could never make art because I'm from Eau Claire. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Has been proven false. That's been proven false. You know what I mean? Or I could never be a good songwriter because I didn't go to some prestigious university where I didn't go to Berkeley or something like that. Like I graduated from UW Eau Claire. You know what I mean? And so did Justin. You know what I mean? And like I don't know. I don't think about that necessarily super often, but I think that has had an effect on a lot of people in the area of just like, don't tell me you can't do stuff. You know what I mean? Like who says you have to be from LA to be able to make cool stuff? Like that's silly, and you should stop telling yourself that because it's been proven false. You know what I mean? So
absolutely.
Yeah, man.
Can we talk about a few songs and I'll let you get on your way? I know you're a busy man, but I want to talk about Limbo. You kind of mentioned it earlier. I love the driving rhythm of that. It sort of has an 80s feel to me, like a Genesis Phil Collins kind of thing going on.
Heck yeah. Oh man, I like that. That's high praise. High praise. I'll put that on the fridge.
Yeah. Tell us about Limbo.
Oh man, Limbo is technically probably the oldest song on the record. Kind of. Previous band that I was in, I came up with a demo for that song. Like it's the first sound you hear on the entire record. It's this like kind of like choppy loop thing going on in that song. That thing. I came up with that loop like 8 or 9, 10 years ago, maybe a long time ago. I came up with that loop in a previous band. I thought it would be for that band, and I like started like kind of putting some lyrics to it and like trying to figure out a song arrangement around it, and like it just kind of nothing ever really materialized by it. I was always really inspired. Like I knew that there was something there, but like I don't know, it just like I could never get it. And then I like gave up on it, but it was always just kind of hanging around, and I'd always go back to it and listen to it, and then like have an idea for it and sit down and try to flesh that idea out, and then it's just whatever. Like I literally started and gave up on that song like 3 times, like before Waldemar was even a band. So it's just that song has just been hanging out in the rafters of my mind for a long time. But yeah, when I started working on this record, I got pulled in by it again. I was looking for song ideas for this record, and for some reason I kind of came back to that one, and I just wrestled with it. Like that song was just a absolute wrestling match, 100%. And I like came up with a whole new song structure for it, showed it to the guys. I was all excited, like, oh, I finally found the song. And I like showed it to my brother Nick, and he's like, yeah, it's cool. I feel like this part doesn't make sense. Like, what's this doing here? And I'd be like, oh yeah, you're right. Why is that there? Like, that doesn't make any sense. And then I'd be like, screw this song. Like, this song has eluded me forever. I'm giving up on it. So I'd scrap it, but then I'd come back to it. But so it literally, it was like that. I went through 2 or 3 different versions of just this song alone in kind of more the writing side of things. But I finally found it, dude. And when the thing that busted it open for me was finding the vocal melody on the chorus. That was kind of the main thing that was really eluding to me. I had kind of my lyrics and my vocal melody for the verse has always kind of been there, but like the chorus was just eluding me. I didn't know what the chorus was supposed to be on this song. And I was in the studio and was playing around with it and was feeling like I was getting close. And then all of a sudden I found this melody sitting at the piano, and I had the lyrics there ready for me, and I just was singing this melody, and I just started weeping because it was like this feeling of like coming home, of just like, I finally found you. You know what I mean? Like, oh, wow. Like it was so powerful. I literally just sat in the live room in my studio, like just crying, and I didn't even know why I was crying. It's like, this is just a song. Like, why? Like, I care about this song, you know, but I don't know. It felt like coming home. It was pretty insane. But so I made a demo, showed it to the guys, and it was finally just like, yep, let's go, you know? So that song was in limbo for forever.
Oh, there you go. There honestly. You go. I want to talk about one more, my favorite on the record, Summer Rain. It's already released, so if you're listening to this now before the album comes out, go give it a listen. But you also have a couple live studio videos that you made, and one of them is Summer Rain. And we're sort of, some of the theme of this interview is like kind of having the patience for waiting for, things to happen and things to transpire or whatever it might be. I love the patience that you have with Summer Rain, and we're kind of talking about War on Drugs and some of these other bands that just do so well with that. They're okay holding on to a verse a little bit longer than maybe they should. I just or totally. A chorus or a note or whatever it is. But I just hear a lot of patience in Summer Rain. You're not in a rush to get anywhere, and I love that.
Yeah. I mean, my joke with Waldemar is we write unnecessarily long rock songs, and I mean, yeah, that's the truth on that one for sure. Like, that one was such an immediate song and just felt really intuitive.
Yeah, can you tell us about the live videos that you guys released?
Oh yeah. So this past summer, got together with a buddy who's a really great videographer, and we filmed 3 songs off the record. There's still one more to come out for Union, which is towards the latter part of the record. But very cool. But making the live videos was really exciting because the record had been mastered and finished for about a year by the time we were getting ready to record these videos and stuff. So we were doing rehearsals as a band, but it was weird. It was it felt like we were like, so on the one hand, we knew these songs really deeply. The record been fully recorded. We'd listened to it a billion times. It was mastered, and then it'd just been out. Like, we'd just been sitting on it for the better part of a year. But so when we got back together to start rehearsing to get ready to shoot these videos, it was strange how much we felt like we were like reinventing the songs in a way, you know, like on the one hand, we fully knew what the songs were and what the spirit of the song was, but figuring out how to do it live felt like rewriting it a little bit. Like, and it's funny, like when I listened to what we captured, and basically the way that we recorded, we just basically just all of us got in a room and put mics in front of everything, and we did 3 takes on every song, and we had the cameras rolling on all of them, and we just picked our favorite take the end of it. And I did some light mixing, and that's what you hear. Yeah, the it's kind of funny listening back to what we captured there, like the song, like the songs, all 3 of the songs that we did for those feel like they've evolved a little bit even from what's on the record, which I feel like that happens all the time. I don't know. They feel like there's something different that is captured in both of them. I think they feel like 2 different songs to me, just a little bit, in a way that is really exciting to me. I mean, we're getting ready to hit the road in May after record release. And yeah, I think after we finish those videos, there's kind of a buzz amongst all of us in the band of like, oh man, we're kind of getting ready to put out a second record, is kind of what like live, you know what I mean? That these songs have evolved by just laying fallow for a year, you know what I mean? So,
well, we love this record. If you're listening to this interview, you're going to go out on May 5th and get Ruthless. We have Gabe Larson with us. Gabe, you want to give out your socials and your website?
Yeah, sure. Website, waldemarmusic.com. I'm most active on Instagram. We've got Facebook and stuff too. I'm not doing any dances on TikTok. But yet, probably never. But yeah, we'll technically say yet. But yeah, where's Waldemar is my Insta, so we can connect there for sure.
Great, man. We appreciate your time today. Loving this record. You're going to go out on May 5th and get the album Ruthless. We love it from start to finish. This is one I always talk about where I push play and I don't stop until the very end. I think that's the only way to listen to an album like this. So go out and get it and give it a spin. Gabe, we appreciate your time today.
Yeah, dude. Thanks so much. I really had a great time. Appreciate it, man.